What's going on, everybody? So we've had a couple of new data mine leaks and update teasers and all this type of stuff going around on Reddit. Some other content creators like Darth have already made a video on this type of stuff. We're going to dive into it today and give my thoughts. And I think that this new 6-piece set could be potentially one of the most broken things in the entire game. And I'll go over some of my thoughts on it, if it's true. Now, let's hop over to the Reddit post here, and we could see that we have a few things coming to the game. Now, obviously, we have a new Heliquary boss. This is no surprise. Pretty much every month has been a new Heliquary boss. This one's going to be 6,200 combat rating, 7.1k and 7.6k for the difficulty 2 and 3, which is very high. I'm currently, I believe, like 33 combat rating. Now, that's not me farming dungeons yet for Hell 5 and gear for Hell 5. Once I start to do that, I'll probably be about like 5,600 combat rating is what I'm going to guess, as soon as I get some of that gear equipped and all that type of stuff. So it's not a crazy amount of combat rating, but definitely something that we're going to have to work to earn over the next week. So that is difficult. Difficulty 2 and 3 are actually quite high up there. So if you're a whale, you may not even be enough. Next up, Frozen Heart. This is going to be a new 5-star legendary gem. This is actually a gem with the same name and look as the one in beta. However, from what I understand is it works a little differently now. So this is going to be interesting. To me, it didn't look that good. If we just click on this video here and we go over to the video here, we can kind of go over and just check out the different gem. I think they have it in here. There's the Frozen Heart, and I don't know what they said here, if they actually talked about the Frozen Heart.
When a 5-star legendary gem.
No, not quite. So I don't know if this video actually ended up having a talk about the Frozen Heart gem in of itself, but from what I understand, that this gem is a little bit different than the original Frozen Heart. It has something to do with shielding and something like that. So keep in mind, but this is actually very important. This part of the video, I wanted to skip to this part. And I'll leave the Reddit post with this video link as well as JT's video link within this in the description down below if you want to check this out. But there's going to be a banner, what we call this like a limited banner in other gacha games is kind of what most people refer to it as. And it's going to be a 50-50 shot whenever you drop a 5-star legendary gem to drop a Frozen Heart. Now keep in mind that all this is data mine and unconfirmed officially by the developers. So we don't know if this is going to be the case 100%. But this seems very likely. Again, this is very akin to a lot of gacha games out there. And if they want to encourage, those high spenders, those 7K resonance players like JT to spend money, then this is a perfect way to do it because you're going to get a 50-50 shot at getting Frozen Hearts. So people like JT might drop like $20,000 to go and get a maxed out Frozen Heart. Definitely go check out his stream. You'll probably see him end up doing that. No questions asked. I'm pretty sure he'll do that. So this is very cool. And honestly, this is a really good way to go ahead and get a bunch of Frozen Hearts into the game. I don't know how long this will last. We don't know if this is actually going to take place. But if it does, this is a very cool feature. Then we have a new dungeon. Now, this new dungeon, who knows what it's going to be, but new dungeon is something that I kind of speculated as something that could possibly come for the major update. So this is going to be pretty cool. Obviously, we have to do it, and dungeons in themselves aren't super exciting. However, the reason we do dungeons is for new set pieces and gear, and that is coming with this update. Supposedly, the Gloom Guides Prize, the new 6-piece set. Now, before we dive into the set itself, the one thing I want to propose here is that we need to know how this drops, because if I end up pulling up my spreadsheet here, you could see, you'll end up seeing that most of the set items, or all the dungeons rather, have basically all the set items they possibly can hold. There isn't really another option here for other set items. So you can see here, this is my spreadsheet. I developed this, and it just showcases all the different locations of all the sets. And you can see there's no duplicates. Like there's no 2 Isatars in one of the dungeons, right? Or 2 Shepherds. There's a perfect amount of dungeons corresponding to a perfect amount of sets, which is very tricky because we have 8 sets and then we have 8 dungeons and we have 6 set pieces for each set, and therefore you need to farm all these different dungeons to pick up all the sets. Now this is very important to know, and the reason for this is this means that there has to be some sort of way to get this set. My guess is that they'll put this entire set in the new dungeon, meaning if you want this set, you'll just go farm the Silent Monastery over and over and over again, which is actually really cool. And honestly, that's one of the ways they can honestly make all dungeon farming much, much better, is just by putting each set in a separate dungeon. The only problem with that is that you'll have people not farming a bunch of dungeons. So, that is actually a solid argument in that all the dungeons are populated because everyone needs to run every dungeon basically. So maybe that's not a good idea, but farming this new set in the Silent Monastery is going to be really nice, assuming that it's all in the same dungeon. I'm super excited about that. Let's talk about the set though. This one says basically it has everything to do with dashing skills or teleporting skills, increasing your damage dealt and crit chance after using a dash skill. And then also when you use a dash skill, you're going to release a wave of terror that will cause nearby enemies to flee in fear. Now, this seems absolutely broken for both PvE and PvP content. This really, really amps up a few certain characters. First off, I don't know if things like, for example, Crusader Horse will count or Necro Wraith form. My guess is that it will not. It says dash skill. Those aren't considered dashes. However, things like Daring Swing, I would imagine counts. Things like Teleport would most likely count. Things like Falling Sword with the Little Lance kind of modification on the Crusader would count. Furious Charge would most likely count. And then all the manner of dashes that the Monk has, like Mystic Strike and Falling Dragon. All of those most likely count. And the reason why I say this is extremely impactful is for two classes in specific, the Demon Hunter and the Wizard. So first off, let's talk about the Wizard. So the Wizard here, the first two parts of this, increasing damage dealt and crit chance when using a dash skill, is extremely valuable in both PvE and PvP content, but specifically in PvE. A lot of the times you will run teleport in your dungeon build just to keep up with people, but now this turns your teleport into sort of a supporting damage buffing skill for the rest of your kit. So let's say you're running a Firestorm build and you're going to drop a bunch of tornadoes. Well, just before you do that, you pop a teleport. Maybe this is like a 12% damage increase and maybe like a 10% crit chance increase. Well, now you've done so much extra damage. It's like basically around that 15% damage amp modification, which is absolutely absurd. Now let's talk about this third part, and this is mainly for PvP in my opinion, because CC isn't super important in PvE, but this seems broken for Wizard and Demon Hunter especially, because if you're talking about characters that want to go in and just immediately have full control over just doing damage and not having to worry about the fallback, well, let's say you daring swing into an enemies. Well, now when you daring swing into an enemy or you teleport into a group of enemies, you're going to fear them all. Then you also have, for the Wizard, a bunch of CC moves and a bunch of damaging moves, and you can teleport out. Or for the Demon Hunter, you'll have Vengeance, which could fear as well. So now you have insane amounts of CC. Now this one for Demon Hunter might not be as good as I am claiming. However, for Wizard, I think it's absolutely absurd. I think Wizard specifically, the fact that they have 3 teleport charges and they're instantaneous, you could teleport in, teleport out. But even more so than that, you can run, for example, a teleport explosion build that I was running early on, and I'm sure many of you out there have experienced. Now you can teleport in, do a bunch of damage while also AoE CCing people. I think this can get really, really oppressive. And then the third class I actually want to mention here specifically for PvP is Barbarian. Now, this is an interesting one because Barbarian's going to tend to run Vithus or Mountebanks. Mountebanks is incredibly good to keep them alive. However, this one gives them way more control and way more damage when you're going to go ahead and fight. For example, let's say you're running Furious Charge. You dash in. Now you've knocked up one person and you've AoE dealt damage and feared them when they fall back down, and then you go ahead and do it again. Furious Charge. This is most likely going to have a 40-second cooldown like every other 6-piece set item is what I'm guessing. I highly doubt that it's not going to have an internal cooldown of 40 seconds, but even so, every 40 seconds is around that kind of timer that you're going to want to engage as a Barbarian anyways. You're going to charge in, proc your set, do all your skills, and then maybe your Undying Rage gets procced and you run away, and then by the time 40 seconds comes up, you're back into the fight again and using this set item again. So those 3 classes in specific, mainly Wizard and Demon Hunter for potentially PvE use. The question is it going to beat Grace or is it going to beat Shaw Boss? Probably not, but for PvP specifically, again, this could be very, very good if you want extra control. But again, you have to make sure it's going to be able to compete with Shaw Boss and Vithus for Demon Hunter, or if it's going to compete with Grace for the Wizard, which may not end up happening. The other thing I want to mention is this is not only updates that they're going to do. I know a lot of people had mentioned, well, this is kind of disappointing. They are coming out with a bunch of warband stuff and the new event. A lot of people have cited the new event where it's going to be that wave type game mode. That is coming, and it looks like it's going to be a warband kind of game mode. On top of that, they said they're going to do massive changes for warbands, as I went over in a previous video. So this is not the only thing. I'm not sure what they're going to be doing for the warband features. I'm not sure if they're going to be doing some crazy stuff. I know they're going to be planning on dropping down the requirements for warband activities to 4 players, which is a good change, but we'll have to see. I'm not sure if this is the major part of the update or if the warbands are going to be the major part of the update. We'll have to see. Again, there is going to be more. We just don't know what quite yet. So my overall thoughts are the new dungeon and new 6-piece set item is very, very cool. We'll have to see what the warband is like. Realistically, the thing that I think is what is needed to bring players back or for people to keep on playing is some sort of progression type system in the game where you can log on and meaningfully progress your character, whether that's going to be extra resonance, whether that's going to be extra gem fragments, or that's going to be some sort of other type of power that you can actually get to progress your character. Because right now, most of us are feeling the same thing, and that is you log on for literally 0 value to progress your overall character. You log off, maybe you skip a week. Well, now that entire week that I've spent every day, 3-4 hours, you could do in 6 hours in one day and be just as strong as I am. And that's the problem right now, is that there is no incentive. There's no reason to keep playing daily. There really isn't. And I think that some sort of progression type system could easily fix that. So let me know what you think down below. Are you excited for this? I'm personally really excited for the new 6-piece set. I think it's a really cool idea, and so that is interesting. I do think it might be a little bit too strong in PvP, but we'll have to see what the actual numbers are like, what the actual cooldown it is, and how it actually interacts with some of these dashes, and what dashes actually work with it, of course. Let me know. I'll see you for the next video.